Thanks, everyone, for joining us this afternoon. We're going to be talking this afternoon about evaluating payment processors. And we also have Stephen from IAPS who's going to be joining us this afternoon. So I'm going to go through some of the slides that I have in the first part. My name is Roshni Katari. I work as the Director of Strategy and Engagement at Gingo Street Labs. And I just want to share a little bit about Gingo Street Labs before we get into our topic. So Gingo Street Labs is based in Washington, D.C., and we provide maintenance and support services to groups around CiviCRM projects, and we also help organizations with CiviCRM upgrades and customization. And we are helping some organizations develop mobile apps as well. So as we started to work with different clients, one of the questions that often came up is which payment processors should they integrate with CiviCRM, and what are some of the advantages of using CiviCRM in terms of integrating payment processors. So one of the biggest advantage is you're not sending people to another website. Rather, people stay on your site when they're making a donation or paying for an event or membership. You can also track your engagement over time with folks. So for example, how many donations did they make in a particular year, and track that over time using CiviCRM. You can also segment your communication. So for example, if you want to send out an email to all of the LAPS members who are not currently members, then you can also segment your communication based on how they're interacting with you. Some of the key questions to ask as you're getting started and thinking about which payment processor you want to use is if you are going to need the option for offering recurring payments. So for example, would you like to have a monthly giving program, or would you like to have automated membership renewals? Those are recurring donations or payments. If you do a lot of events, are you interested in accepting on-site registrations and using a mobile card reader? In terms of costs, you definitely have to consider the monthly cost, the percentage per transaction fees as well. And there's a lot of other factors to consider, such as PCI compliance, fraud protection. So it's really helpful to look into some of the fine print as you start evaluating your options. You should also see, and this is something that often people don't think about, but also consider how would you get your data out if at some point you're going to switch your payment processor. So that's also something helpful to consider. The 4 payment processors that we're going to be looking at today are PayPal, IAPS Payments, Stripe, and Authorizenet. So these payment processors currently integrate with CiviCRM. So we're going to go through some of the fees and some of the fine print information for these different payment processors. As we go through the presentation, if you have questions, feel free to post them in the chat, in the question window, and then we can go from there. I want to make sure that, if you bear with me just one second, just going to go back here. So this, I'm just pulling up the Q&A window so you all can see. This is where you would go ahead and type in your question. So let me continue with the presentation. So as I mentioned, the 4 different payment processors that we're going to be looking at are here. So the first one is Authorizenet. The setup fee that they have is $49 a month. They do have a monthly fee, which is $25, and then per transaction it is 2.9 cents, and also 30 cents for the cost per transaction. One thing to also look at with Authorize.net, if you look at the bottom of the slide, that you can use Authorize with a merchant account, and it does cost less. So if you have your own merchant account set up through your bank, that might be another option. The fee for that the transaction fee for that is going to be a lot lower. So the $49 monthly fee for the setup, cost per transaction is going to be 10 cents, and then a batch fee of 10 cents. So that is an option worth considering if you have access to a merchant account. The way that Authorize.net works is it integrates with PowerPay merchant account. So funds are transferred to the organization's PowerPay merchant account within 24 to 48 hours. They do include recurring payments, fraud protection, mobile payments, and then PCI Compliance is additional. They do have a 800 number for customer support, which is also helpful. Let me continue. The other option is PayPal Pro for nonprofits. Nonprofit organizations do have to apply for this, so it's not automatic and not everybody has access to it. If you don't get accepted to the program. But once you are accepted to the program, there is not a setup fee. The monthly fee is $30, and that includes the recurring payment. So one clarification to make here is that this is for PayPal Pro for nonprofits, as opposed to just regular PayPal for nonprofits, which does not include the recurring payment option. The percentage per transaction is 2.2%, and this is the same if you want to receive check payments, like for example debit payments into your account. That's also the same. And one question that we were asked earlier was regarding Amex, and PayPal does not charge extra for Amex transactions. So they have the same rate, 2.2% all across the board, and 30 cents per transaction. For ACH transactions, which is check payments through people's bank account, that is 40 cents per transaction. They do have a chargeback fee of $20 as well. The funds transfer process, many of you all are probably familiar with it, is that you have to manually transfer your funds from PayPal into your bank account, and the fees are deducted automatically. They do offer fraud protection, which is additional, and something new that they've started is called PayPal Here, which is a credit card swiper, so you can accept payments at events, and the cost for that is 2.7% per transaction, and there's no other fees. And then I have links to their customer support. They have a very good FAQ as well that's available, so you can also check that out. Stripe is another fairly new payment processor. There is not a setup fee. Another good thing is that they don't have a monthly fee. Their cost per transaction is a bit higher than PayPal, so instead of 2.2%, it's 2.9%, and it's 30 cents per transaction. They do not offer ACH payments. So for example, if you want to accept payments from someone's bank account, that is not currently offered through Stripe. Their chargeback fee is $15, and the funds transfer process is, it does vary from organization to organization based on the volume of transactions, but based on their website, it says that their funds are transferred to your bank account on a 2-day rolling basis. This does include recurring payments, fraud protection, mobile payments, and also another interesting thing about Stripe is that there are quite a few integrations with a lot of different software, so that might be something interesting to check out. Stripe itself is PCI compliant, and they offer resources to help you become PCI compliant, but that is something that you have to set up on your own. And then there's also the link for their support help desk. They do not have an 800 number that you can contact that I could find. Let me continue here. IATs, and I think Stephen is going to go into this in more detail, but there is not a setup fee. The monthly fee is $20 per month, and the fee varies in terms of the percentage per transaction depending on the type of credit card. So it's anywhere between 2.39 to 3.20. Now, let's say if you prefer as an organization not to take American Express payments because of the high fee. So you do have the ability to not allow payments with American Express if you prefer that. The cost per transaction is 21 cents, and they do not have a chargeback fee. They do offer ACH, which is 26 cents per transaction, and there's a return fee and a $10 a month fee if you're not using credit card processing. But in this case, if IATS Payments is integrated into your website and CiviCRM, already for accepting credit card payments, they do not charge the $10 a month fee for ACH payments. They do have an annual PCI Compliance fee, and I have a link to this, the PCI Smart Program, which it costs $124.75 a year. And if your organization is already PCI compliant, this fee is waived. So that is also helpful. The funds transfer process is, as soon as a transaction is completed, the funds are transferred within 24 to 48 hours, and fees are not subtracted at that time. At the end of the month, IATS does an ACH transfer of their fees from the organization's account. So the fees are charged separately from the actual transactions that are done on your website. Also included in the IATS payment service is recurring payments and donations. They also have fraud protection. Mobile payments and the mobile card reader is additional. You can purchase that. It works with USB devices, primarily Windows computers, and I think Stephen can answer any questions you have regarding that. Gingo Street Labs is a partner with IATS Payments, and we're also a reseller of Authorizenet, so feel free to let us know if you have questions or would like to get started with any of these different payment processors. I'm going to hand it over to Stephen, so if you all will just bear with me while I make him the presenter, and then we'll have some time for questions for both of us towards the end. So just 1 second. And I see that we've already gotten a lot of great questions, so hold on to those for just a few minutes, and let me just get Stephen started here. And we'll both have a chance to answer the questions towards the end, so just 1 minute. Let's see. Stephen, I'm just trying to find you here, and then I can make you a presenter. While I am doing this, let me see. You all can hold on just a minute. There we go. Okay, I think, Stephen, I've handed it over to you. And let's see if I'm going to unmute, because I'm not sure if, I believe since you're a participant, people may not be able to hear you, so just 1 second.
You are now unmuted.
Stephen, are you there?
Yep, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can hear you. So I'm going to try to see if you can go ahead and start your screen sharing. And
there we go. Can you hear? Can you see my screen?
Yes, yes, I can see your screen. And I think for folks who are on the phone, see if you can mute your line so we don't have a lot of background noise. But let me hand it over to you and hang on to those questions. Feel free to continue to pose additional questions, and we'll get to those in just a few minutes. Go ahead, Stephen.
Thank you very much, Roshani. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak a little around about IELTS payments, what we do, and specifically more around the CiviCRM space. I'm the VP of Marketing and Business Development at IELTS Payments. We've been involved with CiviCRM for a couple of years now. We've been to CiviCon for 2 years in a row. We really love the space, we love the community, and we really try to help out as much as we possibly can. Who is IELTS? Essentially, we are a payment processor, pretty much the same as all the other ones that Roshani mentioned. But what makes us slightly different is that we dedicate ourselves purely to the non-profit space. We were founded in 1996 when our CEO, Tom Epplett, tried to make a donation to the local David Suzuki Foundation. And he couldn't. He essentially put it online, and 3 months later he got a piece of paper in the post with some poor soul on the other side of the computer busy typing in all the transactions into a POS system. So that's where IELTS was born, is to build an online solution for nonprofits to be able to take online donations. We serve about 10,000 nonprofits, as I said, dedicated to the nonprofits space since 1996. We are level 1 PCI Compliant. Data is very, very, very important for us. We do as well. And we also supply gateway and merchant accounts. And I'll jump into that a little bit later. Roshani touched on a little bit with Authorizenet already, the difference between a gateway and a merchant account. And I'll touch on a little bit more detail later just to clarify. And we do a direct integration into CiviCRM. So we've built an integration directly from our service straight into Civi, which really helps with a whole bunch of reporting and tools and things like that, which I'll touch on later as well. So what makes us really different is because we're a non-profit dedicated environment, we really have fantastic customer care. We constantly get a lot of responses from our clients and our partners thanking us for our customer care, and that we understand the non-profits. We understand that there's a high rotation of people. There's a lot of volunteers that come in, they do some work and then they leave, and then that knowledge is lost, and we try and retain that for a large number of nonprofits. We are truly international. We do international processing for merchant accounts for US dollars, Canadian dollars, British pounds, and euros, and we can do ACH or direct debit bank transfers in all of those hard currencies as well. And we can gateway into a further 180 other countries. So just a clarification, what a merchant account is that when you want to set up, do credit card processing, you need to set up a merchant account. Either you do it yourself at your local bank, or we do it on your behalf, or you set one up with Stripe or Authorizenet, etc. So it's all pretty much the same thing. And that is a merchant account. A gateway is slightly different, and that's really where we connect the software like CiviCRM to your merchant account if you've already got a merchant account. So what we have the ability to do is we have the ability to gateway into another 180 other countries. We've recently gone live with Greenpeace International, where we're gatewaying into 22 countries. Feed yourselves in the UK, we're launching and rolling out to 35 countries with them as well. We've recently launched with CiviCRM a customer in India, and I've got a bit of a case study on that a little bit later. As Roshani touched on, we really do have straightforward rates. The important thing for non-profits is the ability to reconcile. And it's very, very confusing in the payment processing industry when it comes to tiered rates, flat rates, interchange plus rates. It all gets very confusing. It gets very difficult to understand how much money came into your bank account and how much money was actually donated. So what we've done is we've built a whole lot of reporting and tools around that specifically for you to understand how much money came in. So for example, if a donor donated $100, you'd see $100 in your bank account, and at the end of the month, we'll extract our fees of, say, $2 or whatever the case may be. So that from a recon point of view, it's very easy for your accountants to say, okay, that's exactly how much we've paid for our payment processing, and that's how much we've got into our bank from donations. As Rashani mentioned, our transactions are deposited for 1 to 2 days. ACH is a little bit longer because banks just take a little bit longer. It can be 3 to 4 days. We have dedicated tools around the non-profit space. For example, fraud and account setup. So I'll give you an example for our account setup. We do realize that filling in paperwork is an arduous process. So if, for instance, you want to set up an account with IH, you just let us know your details. We ask you some basic information, and then we complete the entire application, the entire merchant application form on your behalf. So we finalize that application form. You just sign it. We send it back to you. You just check it. You sign it. You send it to us, and we finalize the merchant setup. So it's very, very simple from your point of view. And fraud, we have very, very dedicated fraud tools. Unfortunately, non-profits are considered extremely high risk to MasterCard and Visa and Amex. And the reason for that is a lot of fraudsters use non-profits to try and identify fraudulent activities. So, for example, a fraudster will purchase or get 1,000 credit card numbers off the internet, and you can actually surprisingly buy credit card information quite easily. And they need to validate those credit card numbers. So what they'll do is they'll use a non-profit's website where they can just make a donation of $1 and run through 10,000 or 1,000 transactions in a couple of minutes using an Autobot. And what happens is they'll get rejected, and eventually they'll find a card that is accepted, and then they'll use that card to go buy their Rolex watch. And the reason why fraudsters love non-profits is because they don't have to buy an account, they don't have to buy anything, they don't have to set up an account, they literally just have to try and make a donation. So we have tools that can identify that. We have tools that check things like IP addresses, where did the credit card transaction come from, and that's all built into CiviCRM. What BIN number, so for example, did the credit card transaction IP come from Nigeria, but the card originated in the US, then there's a good chance that it's fraudulent. We can block all those sorts of things.
Stephen, let me just stop you for 1 second. I think your screen sharing may have just stopped. If you want to...
Can you still see the IH difference slide?
No, I don't see the slide. If there's a way to bring that back up.
There we go.
And also, we got a question from Ben about the presentation. And yes, it will be available for listening to afterwards. And we are recording this, so you can listen to this after. We're also going to make the slides available afterwards. So we'll definitely share that with you. And Stephen, I still don't see your screen. I'm going to remove you as a presenter and add you, and let's see if that helps. Okay. Now I've added you as a presenter again, and let's see if that works. And while you're bringing that up, I'm just going to read a few of the questions that we've gotten, and I'll let you know once your presentation is up.
Can you see my screen now?
No, I don't see your screen. I see evaluating payment options and just the time. Let me see if I can.
Because according to...
I think I can try to bring up your slides as well. So let me do that while we take some of these questions. So let me read some of the questions that we've gotten so far, and then in the meantime, I'm going to pull up your presentation. So one of the questions that we got was, can you define a chargeback fee? And I think this is... Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. So chargeback fee is, for example, a client makes a donor makes a donation to your website and or to your charity, and they receive their statement a month later, and then they look at their statements and they say, hang on a second, I don't remember making this charge, or I don't remember making this donation. Unfortunately, sometimes charities are not very clear on their forms, on the statements and the donor statements, who they are. So part of the service actually that we provide at IATS is we can put our telephone number on there, and they can phone us, and we can say, well, you made a donation to XYZ charity on such and such a date. But if they don't recognize it, they can actually phone their card company and have that charge back or returned. So that's really what a chargeback is the donor doesn't recognize it and then does a charge back. And then what happens is that MasterCard or Visa will then charge that money back or claim that money back on that particular card. And that's usually where there's a chargeback fee. And we don't charge a chargeback fee for that. So that's really what a chargeback is.
Okay, great. Let me see. I think we did get another question here, so let me see if I can pull that up while I'm also trying to find your presentation and bring that back up as well. So just one second. Okay, I have your presentation here, so I'm going to pull up the slides. You're on the IATS different slide, right?
Correct.
Okay. I'm just going to pull that up and then share my screen. So the other question that we got was, and this is related more to PayPal, Amex has the same rate as long as you have a PayPal standard subscription. Does it charge 3.5% in PayPal Pro account with 0 transaction fee? Okay, so I think that was more of a statement. Does PayPal Pro integrate with your website, or do you still need to get redirected to a new site? So PayPal Pro for nonprofits can be integrated directly into your website, so you're not redirected to PayPal. Another question that we got was, what's involved in making CiviCRM PCI compliant? And that might be a good question for you, even in terms of what's involved in PCI compliance and how it works with IATS.
Sure. So PCI compliance is it's often very misunderstood. PCI compliance is more around process than it is around systems. So when it comes down to PCI compliance, if you're receiving credit card or managing credit card information in any way, then you need to be PCI compliant. So even if you have all your systems PCI compliant, for example, your CiviCRM may be sitting on a PCI compliant server, and your donation pages are fully PCI compliant with direct post or with an AJAX redirect or those sorts of things, you are still liable for PCI compliance because you could still be taking credit card information in the street corner selling trees or lemonade or anything like that. Or you may be receiving pieces of paper from a direct mail campaign and people are mailing in their credit card information on a piece of paper. Or even if they're just dialing it in and they're phoning you and they're saying, so yeah, just charge my credit card and here it is over the phone. PCI compliance really is around that. It's saying, what are you doing with that piece of paper once you've captured it into which system, and who's the person that's capturing that information? And are you destroying it afterwards? All bank information that comes in, are you putting it into a locker and then getting a dedicated person to capture that information, or is it just standing on a big box on top of someone's desk in the middle of the whole office area? So that's really the big thing around PCI, is to understand how do you manage credit card information within your entire organization. With that aside, if we take PCI compliance out of that whole process with regards to what happens outside of systems, so in other words, you are literally only using credit card information via an online donation form, for example, around CiviCRM, then ideally what you want to do is you want to have your CiviCRM hosted on a PCI compliance server. And there are a couple of them kicking out there. I can't remember the name of the one organization that we've done a little bit of work with, but trying to get that your server PCI compliant is really important, because what really happens is when the donor captures the credit card information on their online donation form and they hit donate or make a contribution, that clear text credit card information goes to your server where CiviCRM is hosted. It sticks around there for a couple of minutes or a couple of seconds in memory, and then it goes through to our servers, for instance, IATS's servers, where we will then manage that PCI compliance from then on out. So really what you want to do is you want to try and find a solution that can try and bypass the CiviCRM servers as much as possible, either using direct post or an AJAX redirect, etc., etc. The important thing to realize is on the very, very safe side is you can have the redirect, like for instance PayPal Standard, which gives you a redirect, which interestingly enough we were on a PCI call yesterday with PCI, and those redirects are actually not that secure, because in the process of redirecting from Civi to PayPal or any redirect form, there is the opportunity for a hacker to intercept that redirect. Plus, on top of that, if you redirect, then you lose a lot of opportunity for your clients. Well, what happens is research has shown that up to 40% of customers will drop off because they don't trust the redirect, or they think that they need to set up an account with that redirected page. So the ideal thing is to have a CiviCRM extension, an extension included into CiviCRM that can manage a certain amount of direct post or secure redirect or three-step redirect that can effectively bypass your CiviCRM servers, especially if you've got CiviCRM hosted on a box inside your office or on an insecure laptop or something like that. I hope that helps. That's it's a very, very tough and it's a very, very long and complex solution. I did a talk at CiviCon for an hour and a half on this. So it is fairly complex, but ideally what you really want to do is, if you want to be 100% PCI compliant, try and have your CiviCRM solution hosted on a PCI compliance server. If not, have an extension that can try and bypass your servers to do the transaction.
Great. Thank you so much, Stephen. I pulled up your presentation. Let me know if you can see your slides now.
I can't see the slides, I'm afraid.
Not seeing them.
Okay.
I'm not seeing them.
Okay. So it looks like some folks are seeing them, some folks are not seeing them. We will share the slides with you after the presentation, so do not worry. Stephen, if you can go ahead and pull up the slides on your computer, and let's just go through the main points that you had.
Okay. According to my computer, I'm actually still sharing my screen, so I'm not sure why. It says that it is actually sharing.
Oh, it says that it's actually sharing? Okay.
Well, it's not.
Okay.
Okay. Let me, I do have you selected as a presenter, Stephen, so I think if you are sharing, then that should be working. Let me try this again. I'm going to.
Yeah, I think he needs to get off and then get back on again or something. It's not
okay.
That sounds good.
I'm doing that now. Okay.
Okay.
So I've just done that. So see if you can find me now. I've just re-registered on the meeting.
Sure. I'm just scrolling down to find you now. Okay. Yes, I found you. And let's see. Don't think that worked. Yes, I think I actually clicked on somebody else. Let's try that again. Okay, so Stephen, I'm going to hand it over to you while you're pulling up the slides. Let's go ahead and you can continue through the main points in your presentation, and we'll send out the slides to everyone afterwards.
Sure. So the other thing that's very important to look at when it comes to an extension with CiviCRM is to try and identify an extension that is actually supported. There are a lot of extensions in CiviCRM that are not actually supported by any developers as such. Essentially what happens is they've been created once as a requirement for a customer, and then they were built and then just left. What IX does is we've had a dedicated developers that make sure that the CiviCRM extension is always working with the latest extension or the latest version, and we've got a constant roadmap of making sure that everything is working correctly with either the latest version of CiviCRM, or we've got a roadmap with regards to news releases and things that we're trying to develop. I think I'm up and running now.
You're back.
Yes, please. There we go. Can everybody see my screen? Should be able to see it now.
Yes, we can see your screen. Go ahead.
Great. So that's the thing. So getting to the extension itself, what it can do is it can do single and recurring credit card transactions. It can do single and recurring ACH, which bank transfer transactions. We've found that there's been a huge increase in ACH recurring transactions within North America. There's a 60% increase from 2013 to 2014. So clients are getting more and more used to donating and setting up recurring against ACH than they are with credit cards, and there's a significant price difference. You know, with IX, sort of slightly different with the other guys, but with IX, we literally just charge 26 cents per transaction. We don't charge a percentage at all. So it's a huge reduction. Instead of 2.39%, it's 0% and 26 cents per transaction. So it's a huge reduction. So it's a lot better for the charity, first of all, and from that point of view, and second of all, it's also a lot more stable because credit cards tend to be compromised and they change and they expire. So trying to get your donors to donate with an ACH is a much better plan from an overall longevity point of view. The extension can do, the IX extension can do international processing. So we've got merchant accounts, Canadian dollars, US dollars, British pounds, euros, and we've got quite a few other countries that we integrated into, and I'll touch on that a little bit later. We also have an encrypted swipe. So basically what that is the USB swipe where you can connect it to a laptop or a PC, and you can swipe in credit cards straight into CiviCRM in the back end and in the front end, allowing you to take secure payments at an event, for example. And we've got quite a few customers that use that feature. And then the fraud features is what I spoke about a little bit earlier. So card and name tumbling, velocity checking, country checking, things like that. And we actually capture the IP address of the donor to make sure that there's not repeat transactions coming from the same person. At the moment, we have a number of clients. We just short of 100 now internationally, 60 in North America. They do donations, events, memberships. We have one client that does a huge amount of large ACH recurring transactions, which is a religious organization. We've got about 10 clients that are using card swipes at the moment. We have a school in northern Canada that pay for all their lunch money with credit cards. So it's a school where the kids come with credit cards and they swipe the cards for their lunch. We have Canadian, US, British customers. We've recently gone live with a customer in India, and we're in the process of integrating with a few customers in Australia as well. And we really do cover everything. We've got some customers that do about $5,000 a year to a large NPO, which has recently just done $60,000 in 3 days worth of processing, and they do about $200,000 a year with us. Just a quick case study, WARMTH, World Association of Radiopharmaceutical and Molecular Therapy. They're based in India, and what's interesting is they're based in India and they do all their fundraising and donations in US dollars. And they use the membership registration and as well as event registration. So they have about 500 members in 67 different countries with 3 different membership types, and it's all managed with CiviCRM, and all the processing is done through us. They also use it for event registration, where it's $1,400 per person. They have 2 international conferences a year. This year it was in Milan, and I think at the end of the year they're going to do it in India. So they use it for pre-event registration, but they also use our card swiper for on-site late registrations. credit cards. So it's a real success story where in the past it took anything from 3 to 4 months to get all the donations and everything sorted out just for one event. They can actually open up the event within 2 weeks and get all the donations done within a week and a half. It saved them an enormous amount of time. We have a roadmap with our extension. The next thing we're busy building at the moment is direct post. So that's where I was talking about the security elements for PCI a little earlier. That's been built. We're hoping to release that in a couple of weeks. So what that does is it'll allow you to be able to do your transactions within Civvy. It'll bypass the Civvy servers and come straight through to IATs. And that'll allow you to do single card transactions, ACH transactions, etc. We're also expanding more internationally. So at the moment we can do British pounds and direct debits, but we can also do SEPA soon, which SEPA is the European version of ACH bank transactions. We also want to add card details to the transaction so that you'll be able to run reports to say how many of my cards were, or how many of my donations were done with Visa or MasterCard or with Amex or Discoverer. And that's important when it comes to reconciliation of costs. And then card on file is the next thing that we're looking at as well. And that is the ability for you to, if you've got a client who's doing a recurring on a particular credit card and they phone in and they say, well, I want to pay for this, I want to do a donation, please use my existing card that you already have. Then what happens is that you can just charge that same card without having to give the information over the phone again. So really, really fantastic features. At the moment, we've got a referral program going on. So really what we're offering is if you are a CiviCRM customer already and you refer a new CiviCRM customer to us and they set up an IATS account, we'll give you, the referrer and the referees, the new customer, $100 each. So it's just a way for us to be able to kind of give back to the community more than anything else. To say, okay, if you set up with IATS and you set up a CiviCRM, then you can use that money to either enhance the extension or have it installed or set up some reports, etc. We're getting some great feedback on that. And I've got the link there where you can go in and register that. And then what I'm going to do is just very, very quickly give you a demo of the card swiper, the extension within CiviCRM, so what it looks like, how you can run the admin side of things, do some contributions, how the ACH functionality looks, and then a little bit around our customer portal as well, more around more around reconciliations and things like that. We'll just jump into that.
And also, if anyone has any final questions, feel free to type those in. We are about 15 minutes to 5, so this would be a good time for any final questions.
So can you still see? Can you see my page? So what you'll be able to see now is a donation page within CiviCRM. It's a very, very simple one. It's just one that we just set up for test purposes and for demonstration purposes. These are the card details, sort of our test card environment, as well as our ACH test account details. So I'm going to do a $1 donation, for example. Capture your normal details. Here you can set up recurring, whether you want to do recurring by month or how many number of installments. Switch that off. And then here's the options that we offer you. So you can do a normal IATS credit card, so you can see the card number and the security code and the expiration date as per usual. But you can also have an IATS payments ACH. So if I click on the ACH, you'll see what it does is it actually brings up a picture of the check, so that as people want to fill in their check account details, it actually shows you shows them where they can get the information off the check. So the name of the account holder, the bank account number, where they can find the bank routing number, the bank name. So it just helps them know what information they need to capture, whether it should be off their checking account, off their savings account. And then IATS swipe is the encrypted swipe that I was telling you about earlier. So essentially I've got one connected to my computer here, and I'm going to just swipe a test card. And you can see the credit card information is completely encrypted. And the beauty of that is that the actual card details are encrypted in the actual device itself, as opposed to inside the computer or against the software. So what that does is it gives true end-to-end, point-to-point encryption with the credit card. So if you have, for example, you want to take credit card transactions at an event and you have people that are donors or volunteers, and they bring their own machines, and you're worried about them hacking credit card information, you don't have to, because there's no ways they can hack the data, because there's no clear text information moved over from the device to the computer in any way. And then they just literally have to put in an expiry date and then confirm the contribution. And what happens is, in the process, the back end is we receive that information, we know that it's encrypted, we decrypt the credit card information, and then we finalize the transaction, and we send back the information back to CiviCRM. So here you can see the transaction ID and the transaction amount. So if I go in now into CiviCRM, into the back end, you'll see here's the donation that I've literally just done now. So there was the transaction ID, which ties up with that one. So you can see what we've done is we've created, under the contribution section, a small page called IX Payments Admin, and what it does is it shows your recent transactions that have just happened via to various contacts, what the IP address was. So this, for example, here would probably be a very good opportunity for fraud, because now all of a sudden I'm receiving a lot of requests from the same card, the same IP address. So that's something we would probably pick up. If I go to Donald Duck, who's my very, very wealthy test person, and I go into contributions, what you'll see is here is the contribution that I've just completed now. So online contribution, it tells me that it was a single transaction. You can see here that we can set up recurring transactions and actually tell you the recurring transaction. It'll tell you the amount, and it'll tell you whether it's been completed or not. You can see, if we go a little further, there were some other recurring transactions that failed. So we give all that information back to you via the particular person, as well as reports, to say these transactions have succeeded or failed from a recurring point of view. And if you scroll further down, there's obviously a lot of transactions against this guy to do a lot of testing. But what you can see here is you can actually see all the recurring transactions that we've set up against Donald Duck. So there's one every month, one every 2 months, one every day. There's 5 installments. It's been completed, or it's still in progress. So in other words, there's still transactions that need to be completed. So there's still pending future recurring in place that need to be done.
So, Stephen, we have about 9 minutes left, so I do want to take some of these final questions.
Sure.
One of the questions I had for you, Stephen, is regarding getting your data out of IAT. So let's say if in the future you think about trying to move to a different payment processor or change the system you're using, what's the process of trying to get the data out?
That is a fantastic question, because it is something that is a huge problem with a lot of payment processors. They either charge a small fortune. We're actually working with a customer at the moment who's trying to get their data from another payment processor, and they want to charge him $18,000 for the privilege to get their own data back. We believe very firmly that the data is the customer's data, it's not ours. And what we do is we create, I don't know if you can still see in the portal, we have a back-end portal that every customer has access to. And you'll see if I run a journal report, I'm just going to quickly run this report, just let me look at all the reports, all the transactions that happened today. So what you can see here is actually all the reports, all the transactions that happened today, and we can go back up to 2 years, and the card number is actually masked. What we can do is the signer, or the person who's in charge of the account or responsible for the merchant account, they can actually request to have their information put into clear text credit card data. So essentially what happens is we'll unmask that data, and they can run reports, essentially this report where you can just download it as a journal CSV and get that customer information as clear text credit card information. So we'll unmask it for a day or two, give them the opportunity to run reports, extract the data, and then they can use that data however they want. What we also do is, if they are very nervous about keeping that clear text credit card information on their computers and their work, if they are moving towards a different payment processor, we have in the past worked with other payment processors to securely move that data from our servers to theirs. So essentially what happens is we use a public encryption key, we encrypt that data, and we send it via a secure FTP site called Proofpoint that we use. We can send it to another payment processor, we give them our encrypted keys, and then they can decrypt that data their side and they can use it however they want. So we really can actually work with the client to send it either to them directly, or we can send it directly to the new payment processor or CRM solution that they're using. But that's a fantastic question. It's something that should be asked up front. Some payment processors claim that they can do it, but they don't. So it's something that you should actually almost try and get in writing when you set up an account with a payment processor.
Thank you so much. The other question that we got from Craig was, any sense of which of these four is the most popular for CiviCRM Drupal web form integration? And I would have to say that probably PayPal for nonprofits is probably used quite a bit, and Authorize as well. And then IATS is probably catching on, but I don't have a definitive answer of which of these is the most popular. I don't know, Stephen, if you know.
It depends. So from a Civvy point of view, we've got this built-in extension, and obviously we've got a Drupal commerce module as well, which has a similar functionality. So if you are interested in Drupal, we've got a Drupal commerce module too that you could use. PayPal does well in this space for two reasons. One, there are lots of very smaller nonprofits that really do very, very small donations, like if they're doing $1,000 or $2,000 a month. Then PayPal it tends to be very, very popular purely because of the monthly fees. As soon as you get above about $10,000 a month, then actually the transaction fees become more expensive than the monthly fees. So it's kind of the break-even point with Stripe, IATS, and PayPal. The PayPal does well with the small guys, as I said. Stripe again does relatively well, or very well, with smaller transaction volumes. But again, as soon as you get to the larger transaction volumes, so the sort of the small, when I say small, micro, 0 to 10,000 to 10,000 plus, then that's the medium size. That's where IATS tends to be more prominent in the market, in the space. So in terms of sheer numbers of customers, probably PayPal and Stripe, purely because there's a large number of small nonprofits. In the medium and enterprise size, it's probably IATS is probably one of the largest. And
the other question we got from Stuart was, they're using Authorize.net with Heartland as a merchant account, and they're paying $10 a month, not $25 a month. If they switch to another merchant account, will the fee stay the same? I think that's a very specific question related to Authorize, but I think if they switch to another merchant, I think the fee is still the same because of what you had talked about earlier in terms of gateway versus depending on the type of processor it is. And I think you can use Authorize.net just as a gateway. Is that right?
Correct. So let me, to make sure I understand, I think the question is that they're using Authorize.net as a gateway into Heartland to do the payment processing. So the actual merchant account is with Heartland and their gateway is with Authorize.net.
Exactly. And so if they switch to a different merchant account, will the fee stay the same? And I think the answer is yes.
Well, the big thing there is they're paying two fees. So they're paying Authorize.net fees and Heartland fees.
That's a good point.
So they have to pay the monthly fee and the per transaction fee for Authorize.net, and they have to pay the per transaction fee, monthly fee, and percentage fee to Heartland. So to do a true comparison, they should add Authorize.net monthly per transaction fee to Heartland's monthly transaction and discount fee, which is the percentage. And then what most nonprofits don't realize is now they're actually ending up paying anything between $30 and $40 per month, 40 cents per transaction, and whatever percentage, 2.2 or 2.5 or 2.6%. So it becomes very expensive. It's a very, very expensive way of doing it is using Authorize.net as the gateway.
Okay. Any other final questions from the audience? If you can go ahead and type those in. And Stephen, I'm going to ask you another question regarding the portal that you showed us for IAT. So if some organization is not using CiviCRM currently, how would they be able to set up payments kind of independently using the Aura form setup you have?
Sure. So for those that don't have CiviCRM and want to be able to do online transactions, as we mentioned a little bit earlier, you really don't want to do a redirect. You want to try and keep within your web page. So IAT offers a form called Aura, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, you should still see my page, is you'll see I'm staying on home.iatspayments.com just with a /test, which could be a donate page, and you'll see everything inside this block, this gray block, is essentially Aura. And what it does is this is hosted on our web page. So it's completely PCI compliant, so there's no server issues. And you can capture information, payment information, address information. We give you a number of fields that you can change, and you have the ability to do a one-time transaction, recurring transactions with credit cards or bank withdrawals, just entering the credit card number. And that is all set up via the back-end portal. So here you can see, I'm just going to log in again. There's an Aura form set up, and what that does is it allows you to set up, these are just example ones, your payment information. So you can see here there's a list of fields. It says what I want to capture. Do you want to capture name? Do you want to do some custom questions? So those are custom questions I showed you about. So you could go up to 6 custom questions. You can set up the payment details, whether it's a credit card or ACH that you want to capture, single or recurring, what's the payment frequencies. So it really is very simple for you to be able to just go through and generate this form. And what it does, you'll see here, is it gives you a small piece of JavaScript. And it's this JavaScript that's captured inside this website here, which actually delivers this Aura page. So really it's very, very simple to very quickly set up a payment page, an online donation page, which then you can capture credit card information on. And that's all free and comes with our fraud tools and everything. It's just all part of the package.
That's great. And we've reached the 5 o'clock mark. I do want to clarify a few things that we had discussed, and Stephen, maybe you can add to this, is that if you have somebody technical in-house in your organization that can implement the CiviCRM extension with your CMS, and you want to use IATs, you can definitely download the extension and install it. If you don't have a provider that you're working with, or if you don't have someone in-house who is technical who can deal with the IAT CiviCRM extension, then we can definitely help you with that. And then the third alternative is using something like the Aura form setup and then just taking the JavaScript and putting it in your website. So just depending on how much in-house capacity you have, or, you know, Stephen, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. It's, the extension is very, very well detailed, and if you go into the slide deck that Rashawn is going to share, you'll see there's a CiviCRM extension. And essentially, you can, if you're very, very tech savvy, we've got a bunch of customers that have installed it and maintained it themselves, so that's no problem. But if you have any problems, Rashani and her team would be fantastic resources to help you out, just setting it up and getting it to work. You can really choose whether you want to do the swipe, whether you want to do the credit card, do you want to do ACH. All of those sorts of things can be set up in the back end, and it's pretty simple.
That sounds great. Well, thank you guys for joining us this afternoon. Stephen, if you want to pull up your contact information slide, and then I can also pull up our final slide as well. And then we're happy to answer any questions you all have afterwards, so feel free to email us and we can continue this conversation. So, and I just want to thank you, Stephen, for joining us this afternoon and sharing information about IAT.
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity.
Great. Okay, guys. Well, thank you again. And I'm just going to pull up the information for Ginkgo Street Labs, and we will talk to you soon at hopefully a future webinar. Bye, everyone. Have a good afternoon.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.